Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tuts, and today we're going to be talking about SVG and HTML. And if you're not using SVG right now, you should, because it is a great technology. Now, SVG, what it allows you to do is use vector graphics in your HTML, and you can use these as images by simply just dropping in an SVG file, or you can write SVG code exactly as it is in your HTML. And that's actually just simple XML. And maybe you're not going to want to write an SVG by hand, but perhaps you can edit something that already exists. And on top of it all, you can actually animate and do things with hover states using basic CSS to control your SVG. So over the course of these next two videos, we're going to take the Level Up Tuts logo, export it as an SVG, then we're going to drop it in as an image, show you it in as a background image, and then we're going to take that so that the SVG code is actually inline your document, and we're going to do things like animating it on hover state. So check it out, we got a lot of cool stuff with SVG coming up. So to get started, we're going to create a basic shape logo using a vector tools here. I'm going to be using Sketch. If you have access to Illustrator or any other vector tools, most likely you'll be able to export as SVG. So we can go ahead and create a circle here. Of course, you can make whatever shape you would like. I'm going to get rid of the border and just have this be a basic blue color. And I'm going to make sure that it's all centered nicely and everything. And now I'm going to grab and make a rectangle, make it rotated a bit, and then we're going to have it passing through this circle. I'm just going to make this maybe a little interesting and drag this over here. Then maybe scale this rectangle down and have it going through our circle just like that. I can then say to make sure that these are both aligned correctly. Now I'm going to select these and take the difference of them. So we have a shape here that wouldn't actually be easy to create with just CSS. We have a transparent center here, and we have some interesting looking shapes. So let's export this as SVG. Using Sketch, we can do that simply by exporting this particular layer. It gives us an option for SVG, and let's click Export. Now the exporting process might be a little bit different on each platform, but if you do a quick Google search for export SVG in Illustrator, it should be the same as exporting anything in Illustrator. You just change the format to SVG. So let's just title this logo.svg. I'm saving this into an images folder for a site that we had been working on with the Svg grid framework. You don't have to, have this site set up. You can drop this into any HTML document. So here we did have a main tag, but we didn't have a header, so I'm going to make a header and just throw into here our SVG. Now the easiest way to throw in our SVG is to simply declare an image. So just like you would normally have an image with an img tag, an image tag here, and a source, now all we have to do is to pass in the location of our SVG, and since our SVG is saved in our image directory /logo.svg, then that's all we need. Okay, so now if we save this, let's come to our browser and refresh. And with no effort at all, we have our image here. So this image is the exact size as it was when we exported it. When I made this in Sketch, it was on 128 by 128 pixel canvas. But one of the benefits to using SVG is that it's a vector. So check this out. If we come onto this image and we just say width and let's say 300 and height 300, save this and refresh. We now have a giant version of this SVG, but look at how great it looks. There's no blurred edges. We have nice smooth lines. In fact, if you do Command plus and zoom in on your browser, you infinitely can zoom in on this thing and you're getting crisp lines because that is a vector image, just like any other vector image that you could use. So it's it's great, right? This is the awesomeness of SVG. You don't have to have this big old image file. You can have these small SVG files, and if they have enough data and everything like that, they can create these excellent sharp shapes. They're perfect for logos. In fact, if you check out the Level Up Tuts website, we're actually using an SVG logo on our website. Okay. So you can change their height by declaring it there. You can also obviously declare it in CSS, which I would probably recommend. But that's not all you can do with SVG and CSS. We can also use this .svg file as a background image. So let's go ahead and see that in action. I'm going to remove it here from the header for the time being, just simply commenting this out, just so we don't have it in the way. And I'm going to throw this as a background image on our body. Now this is going to look crazy because obviously I'm going to have it repeating and stuff, but just to prove a point, we're going to go ahead and do that. So my main CSS, I'm just going to add in for this background, I'm going to add in a URL and then paste in our image URL. Actually, the path is a little bit different here. There we go. And now I refresh, and just like nothing, we didn't have to tell CSS that this was an SVG. We didn't have to do anything fancy. But sure enough, we just took this image that we created in Illustrator, and now it's being used as a repeatable background as an SVG. And this is brilliant. But let's say we decided we hated this blue color, and it's already up here. We've already made the SVG. Do we have to export it again? Well, the answer is no. You can actually come directly into the SVG. If you're using a basic text editor, you can click on the SVG file, and instead of giving you an image, it's actually giving you the Svg Xml. And so this is really similar to anything you've ever seen before. In fact, there's some extra stuff in here we don't even need and can delete. But as you see, we have a path, and it has the location for all of the paths. It even gives it an ID for us. You'll see later that we can even use that ID to style this. And you can see we have a fill color. So now if we change this fill color to something else, like perhaps 333, we're going to be getting a dark gray SVG. Now this is just the tip of the iceberg for the great stuff you can do with SVG. In the next video, we're going to show you how to work more with this file to even modify your SVG with CSS. So keep watching and we'll show you that in the next one.